Hi everyone, welcome back to Life After Neverland. My name is Corinne and I'm so excited that you're here today to talk about The Chosen, episode 3. And I'm excited to talk to you guys about this. I'm excited to get some of your feedback about this episode because we saw episode 1 and 2 in the theaters and I feel like this one was extra special. It just confirms everything that I've already thought about The Chosen. My husband and I were recently just reacting to a fellow Christian that I follow, who was basically bashing The Chosen up and down, specifically Jars of Clay, who created the music for The Chosen. One of the comments that they had said is that Jesus, Jars of Clay by the way, was saying that Jesus had flaws, and this particular person, which if you care to watch, I'm gonna check the card here, but anyway, he had a problem with the fact that he said flaws. This episode confirmed all of those questions in regards to flaws. Jesus is human. Dallas did an amazing job in this episode where Jesus went home to Nazareth, and in this episode the big theme here is he is revealing that he is the Messiah. So this is truly an epic episode to start off in season 3. I feel like this is the massive kickoff here for the true season of season 3. But yes, and in the midst of Jesus going back home, we get to see a bit of what it was like when he was growing up. Who did he know? Who did he play with? What did he learn? What was his connection with Joseph in particular? And you get a glimpse into that and the flaws that you do see throughout the episode, because no one thinks of Jesus as flawed. But doesn't it make you feel good to know that, like, maybe in other aspects away from sin itself, Jesus wasn't amazing at it? For example, throwing a ball and playing games with his friends, sports. He doesn't like raisins, things like that. Those are the type of elements that I feel are left out of other biblical series that are trying to reach other people who don't know anything about the Bible. I feel like sprinkling these elements in capture the hearts of people who don't know anything about Jesus. And I really do believe with all of my heart that that is extremely valuable, especially in this day and age. And what's so crazy about this episode is that for me personally, but I feel like it's parallel to what is happening in the world right now with all of us and our spiritual growth. It's fascinating. So anyway, I guess I'm going off on a tangent, and I forgot to tell you that it would mean a lot to me if you guys had a chance to possibly hang out at our channel by giving us a subscription and coming back again. We would genuinely like that. Okay, so Jesus goes back to Nazareth, and you get to see him as a baby playing with Lazarus, which is really, really fascinating and precious, and his moment with Mary as a little boy. And later on, you kind of get to see Jesus with Joseph. His relationship with Joseph is revealed towards the end of the episode, and I like that. It's extremely touching, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But when Jesus comes home, his main purpose was his revealing. Like, he's truly going to reveal himself now. And that's a massive deal, because by coming home and choosing to reveal himself to the people that he grew up with, his family, that was his first choice. And when he has his dinner with Mary, you can tell that he's troubled because he has to reveal to her and let her know. He goes into the room, there's a box. They talk about this box, and they don't really reveal to you at the end exactly what this box means. So at first I was super confused. I was so confused about this box. Anyone else? So he opens up the box and he pulls out a bridle. We're gonna talk about that in just a little bit because I did do a little bit of research on that, and I found a couple interesting things that I wanted to share with you guys. So he's got this bridle, and he's very emotional about this bridle. We don't really know exactly why. Well, again, like I said, we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. I'll try not to keep you for too long. But before we do, it's so funny. When he walked into his old room when he was a little boy, he walked back in there, sat down, he took in a big breath. It was almost like it was so nice for him to be back in his old childhood room and the memories that entailed all that stuff. He sat down on his bed and he touched his bed. Did you guys think that was cute? He's like, it still feels small, too small. But then you see his sheep. He named his sheep Cain and Abel. So pressing forward, Jesus interacts with some of his old friends and family for the first time in a very long time. And I think what was interesting for me is just to see how Jesus really is, again, like I said before, his humility and how he is compared to everyone else that he knows and other people in the world. He's so different from all of us. And I felt like little sprinkles of the fruits of the Spirit were kind of revealed who he is, how he interacts with others. An example is Rabbi Benjamin, who had a very strong superiority complex, but Jesus handled him with so much grace. And so I think the fruits of the Spirit and just showing Jesus' humility was such a beautiful thing, one in which we can all try our best to replicate. And Lazarus was interesting to me. You get to see him as an adult. And I think what's fascinating to me is that success is very, very important to him, and he's very charming, and he has this way of being sort of a confident, but a confident, charming, snarky person. So what I would call that is someone who says something a little bit rude to your face, but in the nicest way possible. That's Lazarus. He's very interesting in how he responds to everyone. For example, when Rabbi Benjamin was being holier than thou, Lazarus was kind of encouraging Jesus to speak in front of the community of people the scripture of the prophet Isaiah. And he said to him in front of Rabbi Benjamin, I loved this part, that's why I want to quote this. Okay, he said, Jesus, can you come up with something impactful on short notice? And then Jesus said, we'll see. So if you remember that part, I thought the way that they delivered it, much better than how I did, obviously, was funny. Because obviously he can come up with something impactful at the top of his head. I don't think Rabbi Benjamin took very well to that. What you guys think? So jumping to when Jesus begins to read the scroll of the prophet Isaiah, it's really well done and it's really profound. So when he has Rabbi Benjamin step aside and he steps up there, I want to read to you what he said in case there's anybody who's watching that doesn't know what, I wouldn't have known. So I want to read it to you because it's really profound. He says, the Spirit of the Lord God is upon me because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to the opening of the prison for those who are bound, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. And then he closed the scroll and gently just walked away and sat down. And when he did that, everybody was clearly waiting for more information. And Rabbi Benjamin said, well, Jesus, why didn't you finish? Because there's more to it, and that's the vengeance that is to still come. Jesus said that is in the future. If you've been watching my episodes, I mentioned a few times in regards to The Chosen and just talking about God in general, that humanity is basically very similar to what it was. When you read this prophet of Isaiah, it relates to our time, the future. And I've mentioned the book of Revelation, and I do feel that if you read the book of Revelation and you think about what's going on in the world right now, all of the pieces and all of the prophecies are adding up. It's crazy, you guys. I believe that we are heading into this next portion that wasn't spoken about at that time that we're watching right now on The Chosen, if that makes any sense. In this episode, Jesus said to the rabbi in response to why he didn't finish it, he said, I'm not here for vengeance. I'm here for your salvation. When he came the first time, he came for salvation. When he comes back the next time, it's going to be a totally different experience. This is going to be the wrath. So I wrote this down, spiritually poor and captive. Just look at humanity today. So the Lord's salvation, he even said, is for spiritual death. If you look out into the world right now, you really, really open your eyes and you kind of stop for a minute and just look at what's happening to humanity. It literally, to me, looks like spiritual death. And that's why I'm making that parallel for you guys. And Jesus said after that, he said, if you cannot recognize the year of the Lord's favor, then I cannot save you. And then again, I feel like that relates to the time that we live in now. If we can't stop and recognize that we are literally living in the end times. It sounds crazy for me to say that, but if it sounds crazy, I encourage you to just take a peek at the book of Revelation. So with that being said, people were clearly, some of them had like a disgusted look on their face, and they were Jesus's friends. And they essentially pulled him away over to a cliff and were ready to, push him off the cliff. But Jesus said, And he looked at them in the face and named their names. And he basically said, "Not today." My favorite part was when he looked up and he smirked up at God when it was done. Love that. I just love that so much. How about you guys? When you see him at the burial site next, he has that flashback, that beautiful flashback of him and Joseph when he was a little boy and he was trying to learn how to read. And I think it was beautiful that that moment he was trying to spell out the word brokenhearted. And his father told him that people that are brokenhearted are sad and hurt because he didn't know what that meant. And of course, there he is at the tomb. He has his hand on the tomb, and of course, he's thinking about his moment with Joseph. And in that moment, that box is finally revealed. What does that mean with that bridle? What does that mean? Well, Joseph gave him that bridle, and that is significant in so many ways. With that bridle, he's going to reveal to others that he is the Messiah. He's going to use this bridle. We're going to talk about that in a second. I felt in my heart that he was honoring his worldly father and moving on to complete the wishes of his true father while using this bridle to usher in the revealing of who he truly is and where he's come from and what his mission is. And so let's talk about that bridle for a second. What I read in regards to the donkey and the bridle is, like I said, you guys already know this probably. It said a horse is used in war, but donkeys were used in times of peace and they symbolize peace. Also, this was a statement of all that he was the Messiah, and also that the Messiah would then, through that showing of coming out on a donkey as opposed to a horse, he is revealing great peace in which the world is in need of. You know what I mean? Okay, but you know when he comes back later, he's coming back on a horse. Crazy. Isn't it crazy? I felt like this episode was one of the best episodes that I've seen, and I have a lot of favorite episodes, especially in season 1. And I have more in season 2. Honestly, but season 3, this one's the best one so far. Can you even wait for episode 4? I can't. In closing, you guys, I had to step away for a second because I had some things that I wanted to say, but I had to think about them for a minute. And I really needed to focus. And so the last thing that I want to say to you before I click off and meet you next week for the next episode is just basically, where are you at right now in your life? How do you feel about the things that are going on in the world right now? And I don't believe that it's a coincidence that The Chosen came out when it did, and how surprisingly parallel it is to the message, basically the messages that it's giving out that's relevant to our time, just as much as it was relevant to the time when Jesus was born and lived and walked on this earth. And someone said something to me, I believe it was a pastor, but it was something along the lines of, can you imagine what it felt to be Mary when she gave birth to Jesus and she kissed the forehead of God himself? I just think that is absolutely profound and wild. And so the very end there of the episode where you see Jesus, looking at Mary and realizing the burden that is now put upon her and knowing that the time is up. And once he is revealing himself, that is where everything gets real. And all the heat is going to be put on her, and all the heat is going to be put on Jesus. And she knows what that means, and he knows what that means. And that is real. But when you look at humanity today, we're basically in the same place where humanity is in the series right now. Let me know what you think, you guys, in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for tuning into our channel. Thank you for your subscriptions. Thank you for your time. Many blessings to you and your family over this holiday season, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.